Good afternoon, everyone. My name's David, and this is Jez, and we're both engineers in the Sydney office who work on the Maps API.
And so we're talking today, our session's called Moving Beyond Markers,
Sorry,
Advanced
Jez.
Maps API Customization.
And just as with all the other sessions, there's a wave where you can take notes, see notes being made live, and also ask questions, which we'll try to answer at the end of the session. And also, just wanted to mention that all the samples we're showing today are going to be available publicly at URLs at the end. So don't worry about trying to take down any code snippets or anything. It'll all be there for you at the end.
Cool.
Great, let's get going. So today we're going to be talking about the JavaScript v3 API. So this talk's basically going to be useful for you if you've used the v2 API or the v3 API, or if you'd like to learn about some of the things you can do with the JavaScript. It's not too high level.
Or if you're interested about the cool new things that we're going to announce in this session.
So today.
Okay, so we're going to start with some very basic customization. Some things that you could do with the v2 API. We're going to talk about custom markers, customizing driving directions, custom controls. Some really simple things you can do to make your map stand out more. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to launch into some more advanced stuff. Right,
so the first of the two things we're going to do is probably Jez's favorite section, and that's advanced street view customization. So really innovative new things that you can do in the v3 API, such as bringing your own imagery and connecting it to existing imagery to get a really immersive experience that you could never have brought before.
I think you're underselling our third point there, which I think is actually my favorite thing. We're going to be a bit cagey about it, but it's something new, and it's something that will allow you to take map customization to a whole new level. Really, really brilliant stuff. It's exciting.
Well, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
So, standard marker is standard. I mean, we love the standard marker. We love the standard look of Google Maps. But a lot of the time, when you're on an API site, that's all you see is just the standard Google UI. And having something a little bit different can really stick in people's memory, make the site really stand out, or make the map actually part of the website instead of this sort of standalone thing which isn't actually connected.
Exactly. And so what are we going to do to really make our map stand out in terms of our markers?
Well,
you've got a case study, I believe.
I do have a case study. In my spare time, I've been working on a bit of a community service website called Zombie Trackers Are Us. And here we see one of our standard sort of zombie web pages. You can see them all congregating around them all. But the standard marker just isn't working for me here. They're a bit...
Yeah, it's not really scaring me. I'm not looking at these markers and saying I should be freaking out and getting away from the zombies or planning my escape route from these markers. Because the markers, I mean, they're kind of nice, right?
Kind of friendly.
They're kind of friendly and cuddly.
But Jez?
Whoa. Now that's looking better.
So you can see straight away, you've got a whole new experience. Not only are you visually seeing straight away what the markers represent, but we can do all sorts of things like actually position the markers to point at one another. So you can really see those zombies encroaching.
They're encroaching. So you can even drag them around and
drag them around, they spin. It's that simple.
Cool. Great. So now I'm really aware of where the zombies are, and I won't freak out about it. I was actually working on a similar website.
Oh, yeah?
NinjaTracker.org.
Ninja Tracker.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you can do that with the Maps API v3 as well, just like that.
All right, so we've got our custom markers.
So how do we do that? What's the code?
It's actually, to get a simple marker on the page, it's really simple. Sorry, I said simple twice then.
You do that a lot though, Dave. Sorry. You're a simple kind of guy, I think.
All you need to do is actually pass in the URL of the image you'd like to use as your marker in the icon field of the marker constructor, and that's all you need for a basic marker.
Cool, but we can do some better stuff with the custom markers, right?
Right. So in the case of the zombies, we actually used a giant sprite of zombies that were all rotated at different directions and in different lurching poses. And so using the marker image, you can actually take full advantage of that. So you get the performance of having sprites, but without much effort. So here you just need to give things like the size of the sprite you're using, where on the sprite you are, and whereabouts in that part of the sprite should the marker be anchored onto the map.
Cool. And you can also scale it as well.
Right. And finally, you can also take a similar one of those marker images and make a shadow, put them all together with a custom click region shape so that if you have a strange shaped marker, you can still get to the map around it. And then if you pass those options into the marker constructor, you get the fully customized marker. But marker is just really like the simplest case. So
it is. So let's go on something a bit more
advanced.
Yeah.
Custom directions.
Okay, so custom directions, at the really simple case, looks a bit like this. And Dave, you're going to show us exactly how we can take this, which is pretty much the sort of standard out-of-the-box thing you get with directions in the API, and make it a bit more interactive, a bit more custom.
So this is my custom directions. It doesn't look too much different, but there's actually a lot of stuff happening here. I've used my own polylines, I'm using my own markers, and I've actually rendered the left-hand panel in my own way with my own CSS in my own...
Left-hand panel? That looks like it's on the right to me, Dave.
I think you have to turn around, Jez. I don't know. I don't know my lefts and my rights. Using my own DOM. The other thing is, because I've made all the polylines myself, I can actually add my own behavior to the map. So you see when I hover over a region, it changes color, and also the corresponding step is highlighted. And similarly, if I hover over a step, then the polyline is highlighted. So just really little things like this can change the behavior of a map significantly and make it more memorable or more interactive. And again, it's not too difficult. All we need to do is, instead of passing the directions response to the standard directions renderer, which will give you in 2 lines your normal UI, instead you pass it to your own function then, which can go through the response and actually read all the information about it and draw the bits that are relevant to you on the map. So our response is made up of multiple routes, which have multiple legs, and then each leg has multiple steps. In the common case, though, you're only having a single route and a single leg because you were just asked for one set of directions between 2 points. So you only have to worry about rendering a set of steps. So here you can see we're just taking the first route and the first leg, and in every step, creating some list elements and adding them to our DOM. So going from here to a little bit more complicated, it's just really iterative and quite simple.
Cool. All right, well, let's talk about custom controls. Custom controls are really very easy to do. So what we've got here is, instead of having the standard pan and zoom controls, we've just put some arrows in the corner of the screen which manipulate the map like this. Really simple example, but we'll show you how easy it is to do. Because in actual fact, custom controls are nothing more than divs, which just interact with the map in the JavaScript. So all we're doing is creating a div element, styling it however we like, and then all we're doing is, when we get a click on that element, we're making the map do something cool. Is that function actually in the API?
I'm not sure I've ever seen a map do something cool before, Jez.
I've seen a map do lots of things cool, actually, but I don't think that function's quite there. So if you guys want to request that on the issue tracker, I'd like to see.
I'd star it up.
Yeah, I would too. All right, the only thing that really sort of, that you can do intrinsically with controls is that you can position them dynamically on the map. So you can give one of these control position constants, and the map will actually flow all of the controls intelligently so that we don't get any overlap or anything like that. But as well, because they're just divs, you can also just position them any way you want, absolutely, on the map or relative to the div.
Right, so that's actually one of the things that's changed between V2 and V3, whereas in V2, you always had to worry about making sure that your control wouldn't overlap one of the standard Google controls that you'd added to the map. And so if they change size, then you're in a bit of trouble chasing it around the map. With this, you just give the div to the map, and it'll look after making sure everything fits nicely and nothing flows into each other. Mm-hmm. Finally, before we get into some of the more advanced topics, I'm just going to touch upon custom KML handling. Now, I think often KML's a bit overlooked in the API, but it really shouldn't be, because it's a powerful way to add a lot of data onto your map, but also a good way of separating the HTML and the script which is rendering the map from the actual geographic data. So you can have in one place a list of all the events or a list of all your shops, and in another place, that's where you actually worry about the presentation of it. So this is what a standard KML looks like on the map. I've rendered here just the list of all the meteor impacts across the Earth. So
the what impacts?
Meteorite?
Meteor, oh, I see what you mean.
Sorry,
okay.
Jez.
Sorry. Couldn't quite understand your Australian accent there for a second, Dave.
And so it'll just draw a standard marker for you. You can actually change the image in the KML, but you can't change anything else. So when you click, you get a standard info window with the HTML content that was inside.
That's the description field, right, Dave?
That's the description field.
Cool.
So you can do a little bit, but that's about the limit of our customization we can do.
So how can we make this better? How can we make this our own?
If we take over the rendering of the KML, we still get it rendering the markers for us, so we get really high-performance markers that we can add hundreds, thousands of them to the map. But instead of using the info window, we can render it ourselves. So here in the right-hand panel, you can see I've taken the same information and I've rendered it myself, and I've applied my own CSS, so I don't have to worry about different things on the page interfering with it.
Great. And
the other
as well
thing
as that, yeah. No, you go. This is your slide.
This is my slide. The other thing is that we've actually been able to add behavior as well to the KML. So I don't know if you can see just around the bottom of that marker there, I've actually drawn a circle about how large a radius was made when it hit the ground, how large the crater is. So here.
We sort of emphasized it to
we
make it obvious.
might have scaled it a little bit to make it more obvious. Otherwise,
that would have taken out half of Africa.
But
it was a while ago, though.
Yeah, you can see just with by taking over KML, I've actually changed the experience quite substantially. And again, it didn't actually take much code to get it done. So the first thing you want to do is when you make a KML layer, sorry, that should be google.maps.kml layer, is you pass in a suppress info windows option into the constructor. And that just says, hey, when someone clicks, don't do anything for yourself. I'll be here to help you out. The second thing is then to add a listener for that click event. And when somebody does click on the marker, not only do you get the position at which the marker was clicked, but you get a whole heap of meta information from the server about actually what was in the KML. So in this case, the description field is actually a full HTML body that I can add to the DOM or manipulate. And in our case, we just went through and parsed for the radius and then added a circle overlay to the map.
Cool. So with all of the stuff we've talked about so far, you can make your site look pretty sweet. Like, it looks pretty good. You can customize it. You can make it, you can take the things that, make it look like Google Maps and customize them, so they fit with your site. But I want to go a bit further. So let's talk about some of the more advanced things that we can do with the API v3 now.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're going to start with Street View in v3. And so we're going to show a demo which shows how you can actually put your own custom panoramas into Street View and also link them into the existing Street View imagery. So we've got here a map of the area around the office, the Google Sydney office. We're going to go into Street View, and you can see here that we've got a link from Darling Island Road, which is one of the roads that surrounds the office, into the Google Sydney office. And we can also see we've got the logo there, which is a custom marker that's inside the panorama object.
So I guess the first thing to notice there is things like markers and info windows you can actually take from your map and bring along with you into your Street View.
Absolutely.
Really simply.
So let's go inside Google Sydney. And so this is the reception, and we can see links going off in different directions towards the cafe and towards the area around near us that we like to call the Blue Room. So let's go through to the cafe. Beautiful view of Sydney. Our well-stocked drinks fridge. And so you can see that this is using just our own imagery that we took. Dave and I took one afternoon with a camera and a tripod.
Last Friday, actually.
Last Friday it was, yes. And we've put it straight into Street View, and we've integrated it with the existing Street View imagery. So how do we do this? Well, let's start with the simple things. So To add Street View to the map is really, really easy. All you need to do is either in the options for the constructor, add Street View control as true, or set the Street View control option to true. And then you can get the panorama object by just going map.getStreetView. So to add a custom marker, because Street View in v3 is entirely implemented in HTML, and you just interact with it with JavaScript, and the other objects that you can add to the map pretty much don't care whether it's a map or a panorama. So in this case, the only thing we need to do to get our custom marker on there is change the map parameter for the marker to the panorama.
Right.
And that'll put it in the panorama for us.
So you can do this with markers and info windows and your own overlays that you create yourself, and polyline support is on its way.
Okay, so when you've got custom panoramas, what you need to do is to make sure that they wrap around 360 degrees and then split them into tiles, much as you would do if you were creating a custom tile layer yourself. So what we've got here is the tiles that make up the imagery, and they're square. You can see they're square, and they've just got gray space at the top and bottom. And they're just indexed by the zoom, the x coordinate and the y coordinate, and the ID of the room that they're currently in.
Beautiful.
So the next thing you need to do is to set up the geometry, basically the mapping of where the rooms go, how they link together. So what we've got is this is the link from the blue room. Our origin heading field tells Street View which angle, which heading the panorama starts at. So when you've got your 0, 0 tile, what that's heading towards. And then just an array of links which determine where you can go from this room and what heading the link should be on. So once we've got that, we've got this set PanoProvider function, which takes a function which, when given a Pano ID, will return this object here determining the stuff you need to know, the stuff that the API needs to know to render your Pano. So the important things are the location, the links, which are just the links that we saw in the last slide, the size of the tiles, the size of the world, which is the size of your entire panorama, so it knows how many tiles there are around 360 degrees. The origin heading, which I spoke about, and this function here called getTileURL, which returns the URL of a particular tile parameterized by the zoom and the x and the y.
Great.
And the last thing we have to talk about is how to link it into existing Street View. It's actually really simple. The panorama object has a links changed event, and when that gets called, we actually get the Pano ID, the Pano, for the panorama. We get the links for the existing panorama, and we check that if this is the Pano ID that we care about, so in this case, this IUF1 is the one on Darling Island Road outside the Google office, we just add our link to that, the link that goes into Google Sydney, and will send us to reception.
Great. That
cool.
Easy.
That easy. It is, yes.
All right, so now we come to the last exciting section.
I'm looking forward to this, I am.
So up to now, we've customized what we've put on the map, and we've customized Street View. What left can we possibly do, Jez?
Well, I was wondering, because everything we've done, we've really kind of focused on making this our own. But there's one thing that we just haven't been able to customize yet, and that's the map itself.
You don't like the map? I think it's a nice map.
I like the map. I do like the sort of general Google styling, but sometimes I wish we could modify it in some way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like what?
I don't know. Could you perhaps do something that would make it all desaturated a bit, make the colors less intense?
So like grayscale.
That's very interesting. So we can grayscale the map, hey? Can we? I don't want it just completely black and white. Can we maybe bring it up a bit, make it a little bit more
Oh, you just
colorful?
wanted it faded out.
Just fade it a little bit, desaturate it a
that.
little bit. All right, so compare that to what we had originally. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. Okay, cool. So we're desaturated a bit. What if I want to sort of change the colors altogether? Can I make it blue, for example.
Like that?
Ah, so now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so we can change the hue of the whole map.
Yeah, but I'm not really happy with it, Jez.
Yeah?
I think it looks too cluttered.
Too cluttered, yeah. I was just thinking the same thing,
I was
actually.
thinking maybe we should get rid of some of the roads.
Some of the roads? Okay. How about get rid of the local roads? Just the really small ones. We'll focus on the big ones. Ah, cool. So we can actually now take out individual features from the map. Is that what you're telling me?
I think we can do more than that, Jez.
Oh, great. Because what I was really wanting to do was I wanted a nighttime map, because I'm a bit of a nighttime person.
Bit of a night owl?
Yeah, that's right. So can we invert the lightness of the map?
I reckon we could, yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay, this is looking
Or
cool.
it's a bit dark.
It is a bit dark.
It's a bit,
bring it up a bit.
seedy almost. I don't know, Jez. How's that?
It's looking better. I do have a problem there, because there's parks up here, but the parks are almost the same color to the water, so you really can't get, can we make them stand, I really want the parks to stand out, like really, really much.
Oh, I'll set them to your favorite color. Oh. What do you think, Jez?
Yeah, it looks good. I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot, but I don't know, it might not be to everyone's taste.
Maybe the visitors to your website will be a bit...
How about we go back to a more traditional color for parks? Let's go to green. Okay, great. So we can make the parks green, everything else is blue, it's nice and light. The labels on the parks are green as well, Dave. Can we just change the geometry of the parks, not the labels?
Oh,
as
you
well?
just want the geometry?
Just the geometry.
I reckon I can do that.
Okay, great. So we got that. All right, cool. What else do we want to do? How
Still
about
a little cluttered.
Still a little cluttered. Get rid of some of the extra labels that we don't really need. Okay, cool. All right. So I like this map. So we've got. So what have we got here, Dave?
Well, we've changed the color schemes. We've changed the lightness. We've changed the darkness. Oh, we've changed what features are shown, what labels are shown. We've pretty much customized every aspect of the map.
So now that we've got this styling available, there's a huge range of different things we can do. So here's some styles that you can create now with this new feature called map styling.
Nice sepia.
So here's a sepia-toned map. We've got some other themes we can do.
I like that one.
I like that one. You can even remove things like completely remove all the roads from the map. Use it to highlight particular features. So this one highlights the transit routes around San Francisco. Or even just remove everything just to get the outlines of the shoreline, like that.
Happy. That looks kind of difficult to do, Jez.
You'd be surprised how easy this is to do.
All right, convince me.
So all you have to do is create these style objects. And there's three elements to a style. There's the feature type that you want to manipulate. And we have a shallow hierarchy of features. So you can apply styles to, for example, all of the roads on a map, or just the local roads or the arterial roads. The element type, so that's either the geometry or the labels. So that's what we did when we were manipulating just the geometry of the parks, but we didn't want to change the color of the labels. And then a stylers parameter, which determines the particular things that you want to do to the element. So for example, this is reducing the saturation by 50%. So let's have a look at some of the other examples we can do. So this is taking just the local roads and turning the visibility off. And we can also apply multiple styles to a particular feature. So this is, we're making the hue of the parks green, and we're decreasing the lightness to make them a nice, robust, dark green color. So these are the stylers that you can apply. We've got a normal map up the top, and the other elements that you can manipulate: the saturation, the gamma, the lightness, the hue, and there's an invert lightness property, which will change everything. And as well as that, there's also the visibility, which will change what visibility a particular feature has. Great. And to activate a style, it couldn't be easier. We have a new class called a styled map type, and it just takes one of those style objects, and then you just simply add that styled map type to the map and set the map type, and you'll have your styled map. It's that easy.
Great. So I think it's actually interesting to see what you can do with this. Like, it's all well and good to just make a new style, but how does it come into practice? And we've got a great example here from NBC.
So our partners at NBC Local have this thing called moods, which determines the particular mood that a particular city has about a particular story. And these are all color-coded, so what they've done is to actually take the color coding of the map, of the mood, and then apply it to a map of the area where the story is breaking.
So it's a really simple effect, but something that really would have taken a lot of effort before.
It wouldn't have even been possible before, Dave. I'm putting that out there. I don't think it would have been possible before.
And now a couple of lines of code.
That's right. Cool. So,
let me grab this one.
So we have a map style wizard available that should be live
Now.
about now.
You're looking at it.
You're looking at it now, great. Where you can play with all of the things, so you can manipulate the different features and apply different styles to them and see how it comes out. And then once you've done that, you can get the JSON code, which you can just plonk in straight to your JavaScript.
So, for example, if you wanted
I just realized I said plonk. You were going to say plonk, and you didn't, and I said plonk because you put it in my head.
Plonk.
Plonk, yeah.
Does everyone know what plonk means? Get these.
Okay, well, see, all right.
You out-Aussied them, Jez.
I out-Aussied them.
He means placed.
This isn't just about advanced maps customization, it's about Aussie slang as well.
All right, so I guess if you wanted a really quick demo, what would we do?
What would we do? Oh, this is great.
Well, we change the color of the water.
Let's change the color of the water, all right.
Any
What
votes?
color? What color should we make the water? Red, okay.
Red.
Well, that's pretty easy. Haha. Hang on. Yeah.
Any more
great,
requests?
Cool, yeah.
Feel free to shout anything out.
Saturate it, yeah, okay. Do it, Dave. Make it bright red. And turn down the lightness a bit.
Turn down the lights.
There we go.
So you can see there's absolutely nothing canned about the styles. As you change the JSON, well, as you set the JSON, the style gets rendered for you immediately.
Immediately.
It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely dynamic.
So this wizard is going to be available from the public docs and also from the code samples from today. So please take it and see what you can create.
So this is a really great new feature. It's a way to really make the maps your own. So not only now can you add your own custom markers and custom controls and stuff, but you can take the base map itself and manipulate it and to make it really fit in with your site, or to do some cool features like we saw with MVC.
Great. All right, well, we're starting to come to a close, but before we do, I'd just like to quickly give a plug to the Google Developer Qualification, which you've probably heard a few times by now at a few of the sessions you've been to, but it's just a great way for Azure developers to become qualified and recognized as engineers using the Maps API. So all the code from today's talk is going to be on beyondmarkers.appspot.com. And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them, or feel free to just send them on through the Wave.
Do you want to switch over to the Wave now, in fact?
Sure.
Yes, at the front.
So the demo that you just showed just a moment ago, is that actually manipulating the pixels, or is it requesting new images when you change those? And the reason I ask is, does that then rely on HTML5 and the Canvas object, or is that going to work in older browsers?
Right, this is all done completely server-side, so it's got support for all browsers.
Hi. How do you capture the image, the static image of this one? For example, I think right now Google Maps has this static maps support.
Right.
And the thing is, like, also right now I think I have a problem with static maps where if you have lots of nodes and, if you have lots of markers and this markers has a custom icon, I think it has a limitation on how much, how long is the URL that you can send. Do you have any way to resolve that?
At the moment, there's no support. Like, once you reach the end of your URL, that's it. I know that some of the future things they might be looking at is, say, KML support, where you can render KML directly onto static maps. But at the moment, really, you've just got to work with the limited URL.
It's one of the limitations of the web, right? Yeah. We really did try, with static maps, I know in particular, we tried to make the parameters as concise as possible, but you still have to run into a limit at some point.
Yeah. Okay, and is it available on Google Enterprise Premier as well?
Yep, it's available to everyone. Hi.
Is there a roads attribute that references cycling?
Good question.
I don't believe so, not at the moment, but we're expanding the API. I
Right.
think it's fair to say that we're expanding the API for the map styling, so it's probably something that we'll get to. Yes?
Is there any performance impact of styling the map or like picking colors with opacity or anything like that?
Intrinsically, no. There shouldn't be any impact. The only impact you're likely to see is that users are less likely to have a cached version of the tiles if they've viewed a different site, for example. So if you're using the standard map tiles, then they potentially have them cached from visiting google.com or from anything.
Or an
any
intermediate cache.
Exactly, or any intermediate cache. So potentially they might have to fetch the new tiles.
Okay, so
from
the
Google
regular
service.
style is also render real time, it's not cached? on the
Yes.
server. Okay, thanks.
For the styling, will it be possible to limit it to a region? Because we have a university campus where the labels, they're not really, the labels from Google's, they don't like it. And with what you showed today, we could just wipe those labels.
Right.
And replace them by labels that they would prefer to see. But it will affect all the labels for the map and not just the university campus? Or?
Yeah, at the moment, everything's just done on category rather than sort of a geographical region. It's definitely something we'd like to look at doing because you can, like, if you think about the implications of that, then you can do just thousands of things. But at the moment, we're just categories.
Okay.
Can you bring in other types of layers and mix and match? For instance, if I just wanted the ocean to be the terrain view or satellite view, and I wanted the other parts to be maps, can you splice those two together?
At the moment, it's only actually supported for the base map types. So
Yeah, okay. I was also going to second his notion on adding geographical separators and polygons. That'd be awesome.
no worries.
Add it to the issue tracker. Add a feature request.
Hi. Sometimes the maps is only the starting point. I mean, you use the marker to get more information, like in info window or the rendering service that you showed before. Do you plan to provide something else? I mean, the sidebar, like in the Google Maps?
At the moment, no. It's we only fetch the information when you click on it, so there's no
yeah,
full
but
list.
like rendering services. I mean, it's hard to get something really nice looking when you add a lot of information in an info window. So maybe you have some guidelines or some ideas on how to show more information than only an info window.
I would definitely steer away from using the info window whenever you had that sort of content to show. I don't think we have any standardized way of rendering that other than there's the standard directions renderer for the panel. Yeah, I would, it's really what you want your website to look like. So I wouldn't necessarily make the panel any different to the rest of your HTML content.
Okay, thank you.
Shall we take a question off the wave?
Sure.
I'm getting, really sort of weird angles here, so I can't hardly read it on the thing.
Well, no, the new question just came through. This is all excellent, thanks. Any chance we will be able to change the font to more customize the map or fit in with your branding? Not that we've heard of. I don't know, it could be on the roadmap, but I haven't heard anything. I think that's probably a lot more difficult to pull off, but you never know. Ask for stars.
Ask for stars, yeah, that's right.
Have mouse events on encoded polygons improved for v3? I believe, well, is Ben here? No, Ben. There's been a lot, oh, is there a Ben? Hey, Ben. I know Ben has put a lot of work into changing the way polygons are rendered on maps, so I'm not sure if he's actually had any optimization on clickability. Maybe you want to speak to that, Ben?
Hi, this is Ben. Could you please repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. Have there been any improvements for mouse events on encoded polylines.
Yes, they're fast.
They're fast? There you go. So the answer is yes.
I'm happy to elaborate later.
Try V3, and if you find bugs, please file them in the issue tracker because that's the only way we're going to be able to improve. The last one was the new track element in KML that has been introduced in Google Earth. Will maps support it? Oh, sorry. Will we support tracking KML, and or how can we draw custom paths on the map? At the moment, track won't be supported directly through the KML layer, but I can't see why it wouldn't be supported in the future. I'm not aware of the API myself.
No, the KML.
Come and chat to us later, and we'll try and find someone who can give you a more concrete answer. But at the moment, I think the answer is no.
And there's one more question, which I guess might wrap it up if we don't get any more.
No worries.
Will colorization API available for maps for Flash? That's an interesting question. Possibly. That's maybe a question for our product manager. He's trying to hide in the corner. Sorry? If there is sufficient demand, that's a good product manager answer, isn't it?
Star it up in the bug tracker, and
that's right.
We'll find it. All right.
All right. That's it from us.
Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, just grab us.